This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
When you producer here was saying, are you going to go do mini lobster season? Because the answer is probably always have. But then I'm going over to the Bahamas on June 17th with the boat.
Yeah, just wondering when I need to cover your show.
Hey, I like this. I bet you she could do our show all by herself, Dan. You know that?
I don't think
You've
that
been doing
I
a
better job.
I bet you. Hey, listen, she's better looking anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know that. But
Which is why I do radio. Because you can always say you're better looking.
yeah, but
And
hey,
nobody knows the difference.
That's right.
Listen,
Joe
you-
and I have a face for
the
radio.
only reason I say you're better looking because I know you'd turn me off if you turn off the thing. You'd say, blank space here for Martek, right? 340-1590, 340-1590. This is technically the Dan and Joe show because Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, Joe Martek, financial advisor, are sitting here 90% of the time.
But we have a guest today.
But we have a guest. We have a special guest who happens to be a retired prosecuting attorney who really has nothing else to do except come and harass us. So I said, come and enjoy yourself. We like to have an attorney we can pick on once in a while.
That's a hard thing to do.
Well, only problem with Alan Love is he's not a liberal.
Well, you know what it is? I think he's a patriot. And that makes a big difference.
It's so hard to pick on a conservative when we're both sitting here and we're both conservatives. So, when we got Greg here, the moderate, right?
The liberal.
The liberal, right? We get to pick on Greg. And he's pretty good at defending himself, even though he doesn't use real logic. Because,
We're not mean to him, though.
we're not mean, but we're not necessarily kind. But
We just point out the difference.
Oh, you tease because you love. No, I'm wrong.
well, speaking of which, it was Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, Greg Fasula, attorney, and Joe Martek, financial advisor, that started doing these radio shows back in, give or take, 2004. And it's a long time, Dan.
It's a long time.
We're probably the second longest running person on radio in Fort Pierce. Behind the Swap Shop boy.
Swap
Yeah,
shop
Swap
has
sh-
been
yes.
here forever.
Forever.
Yeah, he's been forever.
And it'll be here long after we're gone. It's
That's
just an entity of its own.
So yeah, but we've been that's 13 years.
That's a long time.
And you don't look much older. You look a lot much
I
older.
look a lot much older. I feel a lot much older.
Well, I'll tell you what, it becomes an interesting thing. But last week while you were gone, I had an interesting week.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son almost died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It was quite a traumatic experience. My
Accident? Sickness?
Nope. Yep. My son.
Nope yet means sickness.
Yes.
It was
Okay.
accident, no. Sickness, yeah.
Sickness, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
My son, when he was 17, fell out of a tree, broke
Right.
his back, been in a wheelchair ever since, and nobody really paid much attention to him being in a wheelchair because he drives his own car and he drives his own boat and he does everything except go upstairs easily. Now, going downstairs has always been very entertaining
It's quick.
to watch him.
Yeah, okay.
He does a wheelie in a wheelchair.
Ooh.
Ka-kunk, ka-kunk, ka-kunk. You don't want to watch this.
Wow.
This is the most scary thing you
For
have
a
ever
parent, you don't want.
Yeah.
For a friend, it would be, hey, let's see you do it again.
Let's see
You would think that he'd be avoiding stairs at all costs, not figuring out how to maneuver them.
seen. When you're young,
Yeah.
see, they actually teach you in the rehab how to do that.
Sure.
And, so to him, going downstairs was no big deal. The interesting thing was, back in 1982, give or take, we're going to church every Sunday, and he had to go because he was in the house. Now, kids, young people, they don't like going to church.
Yeah.
They go
They have
'cause
other things to do.
They got other things to do. So he tried to figure his way out of going to church. Well, he finally figured it out because at the church they had a ramp that came down from the church for wheelchairs. So what he would do is wait till the whole big crowd was outside of the church after the service. Then he'd come and do a wheelie and get up in the air like this and go full tilt down that ramp. I mean, flying. And then he would fall out of the chair
Okay.
On purpose.
into grass. He didn't do it with concrete.
And everybody would come running.
Everybody would come. Oh, he
Okay.
had 19 women around him. That poor kid. And he just milked it to death, And he had grass stains on him and stuff, But, hey, in life.
And so the point was, if you're going to behave like that at church, you have to stay home?
No.
Okay.
We have to go to church Wednesdays and Sundays now. But anyway, so what happened was he's had multiple surgeries over the years, and last year he had quite a few surgeries on his back and on his shoulder, etc. And he was in a lot of pain. I don't know if my son never talks to me and complains. He complains to his sisters so he can get a lot of sympathy out of them, but just understandable. You know how us men, we can manipulate a woman.
Men don't complain.
I don't know how to do that.
You don't know how to do that, right? Anyway, so
Is that what's going on? Okay.
So he was popping pain pills like there's no tomorrow, and it just ate his stomach up.
Oh, sure.
So into the hospital he goes. 911 him. Blood pressure 50/20.
Wow.
He was dead. And they pumped him full of blood. And between that day and 2 days later, when they finally did the last surgery, they went through 13 units of blood.
That's a lot.
They took out a third of his stomach.
He was losing it, yeah.
And the hardest part, Dan, was not going through this. The hardest part was when he told my daughter that he was done. He wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Now there, the pain and the thing. Well, and Alan was sitting here and he heard most of this story because we did this on WCNO, our sister station that we do at 4 o'clock, which is Christian radio. And I'll bet you,
It's somebody's
Alan, we
sister.
had, I don't know, a few thousand people praying for that kid, and we had some people call in and pray. And the good part is he survived the surgery, and his attitude is good.
Okay.
So that's the big part.
Yeah. Now, he's got a long recovery, but he's fine. I mean, he's out of intensive care. He's in a room, and he's got multiple women coming and paying attention to him. So he's back to milking it again. So which is good.
It's a hard road. I mean,
he's going to have a hard road. But,
absolutely.
But the good news is his attitude is good again. So but it was, like I said, it was a rough week. But thank you, Lord, that it all worked. Anyway. 340-1590, 340-1590. So the game plan of our show when we started off doing them was either to save people money, so there comes Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, and or we had to make sure their legal affairs were in order, so wills and trusts became a big subject, and finding an attorney that was user-friendly, that wasn't overly expensive, which many are, that wasn't pretentious and arrogant.
But he had to be competent, Joe, because even if they were all those wonderful accolades you said, if they were stupid,
right,
for lack of a better term,
I
wouldn't want to use them.
Have we ever noticed stupid attorneys?
Why are you looking at me, Joe?
Oh, Lord. You know what, Ellen? It amazes me that people can pass that bar exam and still don't know how to come in out of the rain. I mean, and I know you've seen them, and you wonder yourself that this guy really passed that bar exam, or do you have somebody sit in there for him? Because that's not the easiest test in the world, I hear.
Well, I never had that experience because when I was in law school, there were 2 states, Montana and Wisconsin, the state I'm from, that the Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin ruled that if you get educated at the University of Wisconsin Law School or Marquette Law School in Milwaukee, you do not have to take the bar exam because they felt that the training in those 2 university law schools was sufficient for you to practice in Wisconsin, and that's what I did.
Now, question is this. Did you ever take the bar exam in any other state?
No.
Didn't have to. No, but there's no reciprocity, right, between states? Or is
It depended. I mean, there was reciprocity reciprocity with Minnesota. There was reciprocity with Illinois. You know,
Okay.
the states around Wisconsin. But still, you had to be admitted in those other states as far as the judge saying, okay, you can practice in this case.
And what if I come in as an outside attorney? Because here's what I was told. Let's suppose I was an attorney in another state on the bar, and I had a client in Florida who I needed to defend before the court. Do I just have to have a Florida bar-approved attorney to sit by me?
The answer is yes, because I went through that when I first came down here with my friend Nancy. She had a small claim situation, and she introduced me to the judge, and she said that I'm an attorney and that she'd like me to assist her in her case. And the judge asked me if I was licensed in the state of Florida, and I said no. And he said, "I'm sorry, sir, you're going to have to sit down. Florida law.
Yeah.
Unless you are a licensed attorney in the state of Florida, no way are you going to be able to be a part of a case as far as an attorney role."
And I heard that in most states it's that way. If you're not, you bring in another attorney as a partner, let's just say.
That's right.
And they then have the credentials to do it. Unless, the best one I ever heard, and they changed the law, by the way, and you might remember that kid that actually wrote a book and did the movie Catch Me If You Can.
Right.
He took the bar exam in Louisiana
And passed.
and never went to school. So he became a licensed attorney in Louisiana without going to school.
Now, is that a reflection on his intellect or on the poor exam?
Yes.
Or both?
I would
The
say
state.
yes.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
say.
it changed
Yeah.
after that, and after the book and after the movie and all. I think the state of Louisiana decided to change the rule.
But if you look at our forefathers,
Yeah.
They didn't have such a thing as a law school. They were taught by books,
Yeah,
and they practiced the law. So I'm a firm believer that if I didn't want to go to law school and I could pass the exam, I should be given the opportunity.
Well, here's Dan and I with
Probably Louisiana also had a lower standard, don't you think?
well, they had. I don't necessarily.
Same standard every other lawyer in Louisiana had to pass. I mean, I'm as good as
Yeah,
them.
so, hey.
The other side of the coin is that most of our law, and you, Alan, stay with me. I'm doing this as a student. Most of our American law is derivatives from United Kingdom, from the Great Britain. That was our basis.
Except for Louisiana, that's Napoleonic
Except for
law.
Louisiana, yeah. That's where I was going with that. Napoleonic, which is now the French. Aha.
Oui, oui.
Oui, oui.
Oh, oui. Anyway.
Apparently none of us know any French because
But we
that
know
was
that.
bad.
That was
That
all we
was
know.
really bad.
Mercy beaucoup. Yeah, what was the French model?
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Yes.
internet. You know that one, Alan?
Yes.
Yeah, the French model.
Yes.
I love that. If it's on the internet, you know it's true.
Must be true.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. 340-1590, 340-1590. So the three of us started doing the shows, and we actually had a good time, and we've helped a lot of people and talked to a lot of people and gone through a lot of trials and tribulations with the economy and different things that have happened. And then as the economy changed, we added Ms. Victoria Loyd, Remax of Stewart, realtor extraordinaire, who's only been in real estate since 1980, and then Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, back hand in glove with Victoria when the Great Recession hit. There was rumors and fake news like crazy about there being no financing available, which was never true. They got back to the old rules, which was you had to prove you could actually afford it.
And that always made sense to me.
Yeah, of course.
I
Maybe
did
that's
not.
why they said you couldn't get a loan because those people
sure.
couldn't qualify.
Well, listen,
People who were qualifying.
if you could get a loan without qualifying, I didn't blame you.
No.
I blamed
well,
the lender.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah.
I had nothing wrong with that, getting a loan. I had when I was out on Indian River Drive, they had based on appraisal, and they wanted to know that you had income, et cetera. But the verification processes were minimal. They really now today they check big time, which hey, that was like it was.
And the
prior to that.
appraisals are starting to become a little bit of a problem because as markets have increased,
Right.
when they look at similar sales, say back a year or two when the market was still depressed,
Right.
sometimes it's hard to make that new value meet.
Yep. But if we had Mike Paulus sitting here, he would say that they are starting to loosen up some of the criteria again. When the economy starts to get better, which it is getting better according
Or
to...
they don't have much business and they're trying to get a little more business.
Well, and this is a pendulum.
Yeah.
Too much, too little,
Yeah,
too much,
yeah.
too little. They never can figure out how to stay in the middle, and they never will.
That's like the Florida, water. Let the water go out. Don't
Yeah.
let the water go
Yeah.
out. Can't figure out what to do
We
with
got
it.
too much, too
You
little,
heard
too
about
much.
the poor boaters over the weekend. I mean,
No, I
they're having a
wasn't
hard
here.
time
I
getting
was in
it.
Alaska.
Well, they were. Was it cold there?
It was cool.
Cool.
It wasn't bad.
Yes. Yeah. But the boaters are having a hard time getting in and out
Of,
the lake.
oh, yeah.
Because
It's
it's too
down.
Yeah, they're
down.
going through props. They said the little motor. What's the little
Uh-huh.
motor called?
The trolling motor.
There you go. That's your way in and out.
Yeah.
Because the lake level is down again.
But that's the fishermen coming out of course
Yes,
and working
yeah,
in the backwater.
yeah.
So
They have to
make-
understand how many millions and millions of dollars they put into the Okeechobee economy. I mean,
Oh,
that's a
man.
big part of the Okeechobee
Sure,
economy.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now these guys, the fishermen, love low water. This is great breeding for bass, etc.
Until
Tremendous.
there's no oxygen and the bass all float to the top.
Yeah.
Would you just scoop them out?
Well, the sun now gets closer to the bottom and generates the weed
Warmer water,
growth.
yeah.
And the weed growth are critical to protecting the little fish and the spawning and all that kind of good stuff. When you have high water, the breeding goes down. Anyway, Martek, the ecologist and the water
And fisherman,
person.
right?
And fisherman. Hey, thank you, Lord, you got me to live in Florida. If I never see Michigan again, that's too soon. But I will tell you this. Of course, when we lived in Michigan, it's like Wisconsin. That 2 weeks of summer, we just loved it to death.
2 weeks of summer.
Especially in Milwaukee, because what would happen is the wind would come off of Lake Michigan, and Milwaukee would be in the mid-40s in mid-April, while Madison, 70 miles west, would be 72, 73.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, that's what I was saying to Dan. He was on this boat up going through Alaska, and out on the water, it's never warm. That water never gets warm. But as long as he had sun on his side of the boat.
Well, being a Floridian, I know how to dress in Alaska. Because people don't realize that in Florida it can get mighty cold. So as a kid, we would dress in layers.
Yeah.
And by noon, I was down to my shirt.
Right.
Well, the same thing holds true in Alaska. You dress in layers. If it gets a little warm, you take it off.
Taking off pieces.
So, I mean, it's the same basic principle.
How are the mosquitoes?
Didn't see one?
Oh, good.
We're not on a
they're
boat.
like,
You're not.
they're like bird size.
But you're
there.
not
That's
going to get
just
them
an
out
Alaskan rumor.
out in the salt water. They're going to.
Okay.
They're not allowed out
Yeah,
there.
we saw some whales and some seals and some sea otters and stuff and
All the good
eagles and
stuff.
bears. We had a great time. So.
Great.
Did you see Russia from your boat?
I did, and I waved at Sarah as I went by.
Waved to Sarah and at Putin all the same side.
No, the dreaded R word.
Well, see, what people have
Russia.
to realize is that
Russia.
Alaska was Russia. Until Stuart's Folly, when he bought it from Russia, it was Russia. So it's the same basic topography.
Speaking of Putin, this is becoming more of a joke every day, and I can't wait to see this thing play out and how the Democrats are going to handle it when they can't layer on Trump that Putin cost the election for.
Well, they just can't get over it. This is just my opinion. Okay, if he really wanted to put a stop to it, just put her in jail.
Yeah.
And that put a stop to it. Okay, there's plenty of stuff out there. If I want to do a role reversal and say, you do what you want, I'm going to do what needs to be done.
I'm thinking when she says she's going to be the head of the resistance, she really ought to be keeping her head down.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
It's going to be This is Martek, the politician, saying the strategy I think is getting more and more towards the midterm election.
I'm just frustrated with the rhinos who have not done what they were elected to do, and what's going to end up happening if they're not careful, they're going to disappoint the voters so badly, they're going to give it all back.
That's
what's funny, though, is right now in Washington, nobody's doing what they were elected to do because the Democrats are so focused on harming Trump. The rhinos are kind of like protecting themselves.
Yeah, boy.
Trump's trying to do what he promised, and nobody's getting anything done.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Sounds like the last 8 years.
Well,
Nothing's getting done.
like he said, he and he mentioned this before, and we've talked about it, letting Obamacare implode, which it's imploding all over the country, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think, Dan, you're paying $80 million a month for health insurance now.
I found something, and I'm surprised it hasn't been picked up from the latest I've seen on the internet, is Trump had a tweet this morning, and they say he invented a word, COVFETE.
Covets.
People are thinking that it's a misspelling of the word coverage. Well, he was railing against the media, and I think it's a brilliant tweet because I think what he was doing was combining the word coverage with the word confetti and putting them together, meaning that the media, what they're printing isn't worth the paper it's printed on. So that's my take. I think it's a brilliant tweet for that reason. And I also think that we have to, in the next 33 minutes, come up with some real educational brilliance, don't we, Joe?
Are we gonna?
Where are we gonna
find that?
That's a real
Obviously,
big
you haven't been listening to us for a while.
I like what he said. Don't we, Joe? Wait a minute. Why didn't you just say, "Don't you, Dan"? don't lay it on. Hey, who's?
Because you're the leader of the pack.
Yeah. But I just resigned. 340-1590. 340-1590. So the concept of the group, very simple, was to save people money or to make people money, and we've been very blessed to be able to do it. And life has been exceedingly good. I got to tell you another little story that I get a kick out of. And, you know, we get more people that call on the other station, WCNO, Christian Radio 89.9 FM at 4 o'clock every Wednesday. And I had a lady that called in. Oh, it's probably been a month now. And let me be unpolitically correct. This lady was an African-American old lady whose son had died 6 or 7 years ago, who worked for a very large company, and that very large company had either or both 401k and pension plan. And she has been trying for 6 years to get somebody within that company to
help her
and let her, because, I mean, there's a beneficiary going to be named, and if there's not, there's an estate where that money is not that company's money.
Absolutely
it belongs to somebody. So she called into the radio station, and I said, hey, send me a fax or an email. She sent me a fax with his name, date of birth, social security number, date of death, and the name of the company. And let me see what I can do. Well, I got to tell you, Dan, we've been working on it for maybe 2-3 weeks, getting the runaround like there ain't no tomorrow. Finally, I have my new girl, who's a tough little girl. I said, what you do is don't be nasty. Just say, okay, fine. We'd hate to hire an attorney to do this, but if we have to, we will, because we need to bring this to a closure. Well, all of a sudden, they started getting cooperative.
That's what it takes sometimes.
And it kind of makes my heart feel good. I don't care how much money it is, if it's $1 or $50,000.
It's not their dollar.
It's not their dollar. And Mom's daughter said, Mom, let it go. You don't need to be worrying about this. But like Mom said, you know, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And it's kind of making me feel good that it's coming to a head.
Well, you know what it is, Joe? And I say this with respect to you. You knew enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't have to hire an attorney. You knew enough to be dangerous to them.
Yep.
You knew the right words to say, the right implied threats to make.
Right.
And sometimes that's all it takes to get the ball rolling.
Well, I think what happened is, and I hate to say they discriminated
but
against
shouldn't they have gotten that ball rolling the minute they got the information that they needed?
You'd like to think that.
You'd like to think that.
They shouldn't have had to. You shouldn't have had to wait as long, and you shouldn't have had to say, "Well, you know, nicely, we'll get an attorney involved."
I will tell you one of the things that happens. I honestly believe that the company could care less.
Yeah,
I mean,
and the person that you reached
people
probably would rather go get coffee.
They'd rather go get coffee.
You would think that the HR or somebody there would be semi-compassionate to a deceased employee.
You think somebody.
And try to take care of his estate or his family.
Well, the person now is compassionate because we finally got through and they said.
But see, you didn't go away.
No.
Most of the time, they're just hoping that you go away.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Ms. Victoria Loyd, Remax of Stewart, who just snuck in on us, and you know Alan.
Yes, I do.
Of course, everybody.
Got a
I
shit,
walk
yeah.
in and all I hear is that they're trying to get rid of you again, Joe.
It happens. You know,
Yeah.
it's just the way it works. You look especially devastating today.
Oh, thank you.
What's wrong?
Depression, maybe. No. I'm looking at you, Joe.
Thank you. Hey,
So I have a question about what you were just talking about. And my question is this. In this day and age, don't you think it might be wise when somebody is about ready to retire that they go and consult with a CPA as far as all the ramifications of the pension plan that they're about to get into?
Or-
I'm thinking of Vince Rosino, somebody like that.
or what the options are.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So the person has an understanding before they retire, not coming years later when it's too late to see exactly what their options are.
It's funny you should say that because this happens to me regularly, and this is a big part of my practice. People are retired or getting ready to retire, or already have retired, and they haven't made a selection yet. And then they get this package that's 30 and 40 pages thick, and they try to decipher what it says. But then they offer, very often a company will offer 2 or 3 or 4 different options to pension. Give them a check every month for X and the options. To roll money out of that into a self-directed IRA, there might be 30 pages on keeping the money and 1 page on rolling it out into an IRA. Because most of them, it seems as though, for obvious reasons, they want to keep the money and keep it in the company's surge or into that pension fund, which makes the company look better to have that money in the pension fund. So what I tell everybody is, hey, let's just look at your options and see what's going to go. One of the big problems with most pension funds, and I'm not saying always, but quite often, is you make an election to give you a check every month for the rest of your life, and sometimes people don't ask the question, what happens if I die? Excuse me, forget the word if. When? Well, it can be over with. There's no more
I
checks.
like if better.
I know.
Yeah.
However, nobody gets out of here alive. That's called the rule. So the key is this. The options almost always end upon the death, even if it's a partner. There's no continuation of that money to heirs. I very, very seldom see where there's excess money left over once people make these pension electives. But if you roll the money out and put it into your self-directed account, you then control it no matter what you do. Even if you
That's a good
Can you
point,
do that
Joe.
with a
I
pension?
never thought about
Uh-huh.
that.
Pensions can do that?
Most of the times today, what has happened because of the abuses of the past, the government got in, and once in a while, Dan, you and I have to agree that the government comes in handy.
They do. I mean, they have the big club
Yeah.
to make certain industries abide by
Right.
good moral business practices.
I mean, I understand you can roll a 401k, but say you have a pension plan with a company, and I mean, that would be like a brilliant idea to roll it into an
Very
IRA if
often
you
can,
could.
but very often, like we just had, Bulldog, who calls us regularly. Mm-hmm. So he retired from a big company many, many years ago. And so, he gets information. I call up, and guy says, yeah, we can get you money. We can roll it out. So then I get with Bulldog, and they wanted his divorce papers, everything, because if in the divorce decree, if his ex-wife got a part of his pension,
she has
She'd
to
be
agree.
getting a check.
so he had to get the divorce papers. So we got all that. And we got on the phone and called up the company. And the new person says, oh, no, can't have the money. I say, wait a minute. Brian said you can. Brian's wrong. I don't take no.
I can put Brian back
Then
on
I
the
would
phone.
say, give it to me in writing so I can take it to my attorney.
Well, guess what? So we now have, she said, here's the rules, and he was wrong on that. When he turned 65, not until he turns 65, our company charter says he then can roll, but not until. So he's got a ways to go. So we're done. We're on the phone. I talked for 20 minutes trying to make sure this person was competent. So then I got off the phone, and I said, you know what, Bulldog? I'll bet you your divorced wife is the beneficiary on that account. All of a sudden, his eyeballs got 4 times as big. He says, "You got to be kidding." So I called back, and the same girl answered the phone. And I said, "Hey, long time no see. How you been?" You know how I am on a phone.
And she said, "Oh God, you again."
Oh, here again, right? So she looked it up, and bigger than all get out, she was the beneficiary.
Oh
As
my
she
God.
should
Poor
have been at that
bulldog.
time.
He'll be
'cause
calling us.
That was his wife.
So anyway, I said literally, "Can we write a letter from him with the account number, verifying I will witness it, changing the beneficiary?" And she said yes. So we now have sent that in, and I asked for verification back
That they got it.
that they got it, and it's been taken care of. Because back again, the slip between the lip and the gum.
But if you hadn't have done this, Joe, it would have never been corrected.
Never. On the other hand, as I said to him, I said, "Bulldog, now you got to stay alive for about another week, because if you die, Mary Beth won't get the money."
Now think if
Keep him on life support.
Keep him on life support.
if he would never have thought of that, if
No.
it just would have been, in the back of his mind and just left that there.
Listen, until Joe Martek came along in our group, and everybody in our group has had a piece of Bulldog and Mary Beth or vice versa, the key was he had forgotten all about that pension totally. And I made him dig it out and made him go get it and made him start doing the research on it, because all of a sudden, because Mary Beth was leaving a company and she had a 401k and a 403b and she's rolling one into the other, well, the education started to come up that maybe he had some benefit, which he did.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good chunk of change. But, hey, stay alive till you're 65, but in the meantime, if he dies now, Mary Beth's happy, and I just said, "Is this new house a 2-story house or a one?" I said,
Don't worry, Bulldog. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere, Bulldog.
"If it's a 2-story house, don't walk down the stairs in front of her."
Joe,
Story.
I'm very fortunate to be sitting next to Victoria Loyd, and I've got a question for you on a little different subject. Your subject, real estate. I'd like to know what's happening in the real estate market these days. What's going on? How's the economy affecting it? And a question that Joe just talked about. Have you ever been in a situation where there's been a fight over, say, property that came because of the fact that there was a pension dispute or a divorce dispute? How do you handle that as a real estate agent?
You got to rule that around.
Yeah, well, it's not. I haven't handled it with the pension one, but we have with divorcees. Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm dealing with one right now. So what happens with that is, they have to clarify in the beginning with their own attorneys to find out what's going on with the divorce situation, and we work it that way. But the thing with the economy right now, and the things that people are still buying.
Yeah.
I mean, I love, and I was just talking to somebody the other day. They came here in year 2000. They got a house, and they paid a great amount of money for it. Not a lot of money, but to them, under $200,000 for this beautiful home. And to them, they're saying, "Oh my God, everything's so expensive now." But it's not. You can't go anywhere else, in this world. When we're here, we're spoiled. We are so used to having these such affordable housing and homes here that have been so low. So when you're getting this big, beautiful home for $200,000, where somewhere else it costs you like $700,000, you got to take that into consideration. The hardest thing we have right now going on, and this would come into the Mike Paulus, and even though he's doing great, is they're just getting tighter and tighter and tighter on getting these mortgages. And, we've had a situation where, we come right down to the closing and it doesn't happen sometimes. And we're still working on it, and trying to get the kinks out of it.
So what's
but
that?
they can pull it at any time they want to.
You're talking about doing the paperwork shuffle to get a mortgage?
Absolutely anymore. And they're getting harder and harder and tighter and tighter.
Well, see, now when Mike was on, I don't know, a few weeks ago, he said that they were starting to get looser in some areas.
Well, they might be getting looser about wanting to give money, but they're getting tighter to the person that's getting the money. So
How about
now
the appraisals? Are the appraisals coming in low?
Some are.
Because
Yes,
of
they
the
are.
prior condition we had, and now people are selling houses for more realistic value, and they're trying to say, hey, 3 years ago it wasn't selling for that much.
Well, they don't do it that way. We base everything in the last 6 months what's sold in a neighborhood.
Okay, well, that makes more sense.
They do it in a 1 mile radius, as they call it. And we do the same thing as we do a comparable market analysis. That's taking a 1 mile radius of the area of your home, and we're saying there's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage. What has been selling, and it might be block or frame home, which will give you your value. So we can give you a really good indication of what your house will go for. But an appraiser will actually come in and put it in writing and certify it.
Right.
But are we finding that some of them are coming in a little bit lower? Yes, they are. Are some coming in a few thousand higher? Yes, they are. So it just depends on the pricing. Do we find it's still a little bit of a roller coaster? Where, like I say, you might see where prices I've seen in the computer, they're going down and some are going up.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where you
Neighborhoods
are
can
in
make
the
a
neighborhood.
difference.
That's
Yeah.
right, Joe.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. And that's where people get confused. And I love it when people call me and say, now, Victoria, the one down the street, they're asking $500,000. You know, they can ask $1 million.
Of course.
Show me a sold property for
There you go.
$500,000.
Right.
That's what they base it on, not what's available. What I do is I find out what's available in your neighborhood, so to know what we're in competition with. Why do I want to see your house, Dan, instead of Joe's house? You know, you might be 5,000 more than Joe's house, but not even feature as much as Joe has. But then that's what we look for. That's why it makes it more desirable. So people say, but Victoria, I've got gold floors. Well, that's great. I'm glad you enjoy those gold floors, but you're not going to get a lot of money for those gold floors that you put into
That's like
it.
an emotional attachment they have.
That's right. That's why you get that word, don't over improve. Those are the improvement. Now, if you want to change and add a bathroom, you're going to get more money.
Sure.
Anything you enlarge and make larger under air conditioning is where your value is.
What about updated bathrooms?
Well, that's what I was just ready to say. When you update a bathroom and you update a kitchen, absolutely you're going to get better value for that home. The other things are, I'm going to want your home, Dan, over Joe's home, only because now, boy, your house is really a lot cleaner. You know, I can eat off the thresholds as I walk through the doors. People love to see that. Your air conditioning filter, believe it or not, they look at that. They say, gosh, the fans, they have so much dust on it.
Sure.
People look at those things. Those little things make the biggest difference when you're ready to sell a house. It's unbelievable.
Well, you know, but too, don't you often think, though, too, now, I'm going to pick on you, but the realtor depends on the person that's working with them. It might lead people to look for certain things. And on the other hand, if you can find certain things that might be peripheral wrong, hey, make an offer that's a little lower, because you're going to run – the people are looking for that pristine house, but the one that might have a little bit of flaws may not have anything wrong except – that little bit of peripheral dust or whatever it might be.
And the one thing you find a lot that is common, but people think it's major, is you get these little settlement cracks in a block home outside.
That's normal.
And it's normal.
Yeah,
you know, so don't get all upset over that because you see a little crack outside, because, you know, this was with mortar and water, and if it's a block home, that's what you see. So don't get nervous over that.
You find a house that doesn't settle a bit that's 20 years old, that's pretty hard.
There's a problem.
On my last home, it was a big 2-story block house.
Right.
Never saw a settling crack. Why? I had elastic paint. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a bungee cord.
Yeah.
It'll move with the block, so you would never see it.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say now it's a 1-story. It used to
No.
be a 2-story.
340-1590, 340-1590. Hey, and speaking of Bulldog, who I was just picking on, you know.
I told you he'd call us.
Of course he'd call.
Hi, Bulldog.
You're on the radio, my man. Whoops.
No,
Guess what?
He's gone.
He hung up. Well, he'll call back. Yeah.
You probably had to take a better call than us, huh?
Yeah, I would imagine. 340.
The phone is
there he
ringing,
calling
so,
back.
yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590. Well, you know, it's an interesting thing. I saw it today's paper that in the last 12 months, Martin County's 5.6% up values. And that's not really a whole bunch. You know, I think the year before was much higher than that, wasn't it? Percentage-wise.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it's like 8-something.
But it's still.
It's better than a lot of investments.
Oh, no kidding. But I think a lot of real estate, in fact, housing today is still, used housing is still below the cost of new construction.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean,
You
literally,
cannot. He's back.
you can get a house that's as good as new for a lot less money than you can build a new house.
Absolutely.
Bulldog, you hung up on us, huh?
Well, I know. I had an incoming call from a RE/MAX agent up in Palm Coast, so I had to hang up one, and I mistakenly hung up both.
Well, they,
You know,
hey, I'll tell you what, you're
stupid technology. I love it.
You got to be smarter than what you're working with.
You're hanging around too many old people, Bulldog.
Hey, look, us old people don't figure it out. I still got a flip phone, all right? So, I'm serious. Hey, Vic, I got to talk to you after about the sale of the contingency of the sale thing. You know that.
Okay, and I was going to call
so
you
too. You talk to me on that one, would you?
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Next time you go to Alaska, man, do it right. Go to the Iditarod. Go
Yeah,
see
right.
Sled
Yeah,
Dog.
Yeah,
No,
right.
I don't think so. I can't
tell
even
you
say
what,
the word.
Yeah,
hey,
watch
look,
how you say it.
I owned Alaskan Malamutes, all right? And these are the nearest thing to wolves you can get, man. Nobody comes into your house. These things are
That's
great.
right. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
They
Understand
are
exactly.
marvelous dog, and you ought to see them, you know, when they're in a pack and they're running. They're just having so much fun. And you get pulled on a sled and stuff, man, it's a blast.
Hey, Bulldog.
Sounds like my younger years.
Bulldog, when's the last time you did that? Yeah, see?
Well, she didn't get any part of the 401 either, so, so I'm not worried about that.
There you go.
Anyway,
Hey, Bulldog, have you gotten anything in the mail from the title company for me yet?
no, I've been looking for it.
Okay, that was what I was going to call you before the show, so I'll talk to you after the show. We'll have to find out where it is.
Yeah, I know. I keep looking. It's not a special delivery, you know, or anything on the porch or anything, or in the mailbox. So,
Okay.
all right, you know, so we'll settle that. Hey, I've got a Mary Beth question for you, and anyone can handle this. Maybe your prosecutor would know best on this one.
Here we go. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mary Beth had LifeLock through her previous company free, I guess, you know, for, you know, whatever reason. And now she's thinking of purchasing it. I mean, does LifeLock make sense from a litigation point of view, from a recovery point of view? Is it worth the money that you spend on it?
My answer is that I would have to do more research as far as knowing their success rate. Some of these companies that promise things as far as your security and things like that, they're not good. Other companies are very good. Now, LifeLock does a lot of advertising. I don't have LifeLock. I'm basically familiar with them basically just from their advertising. So to give you an answer to your question would not be prudent on my part and would not help you. One suggestion I would have is, why don't you go to the BBB.org, the Better Business Bureau site, and Google in there companies that have credit protection. I frankly, for myself, I have none of that because I'm not worried about identity theft and credit protection, and the reason I'm not is the banks that I deal with have been very good as far as any problems I or my friends have gotten into.
And your credit cards as well.
Oh,
which is good, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, exactly.
So you know, it depends on individual circumstances. If you've got a lot of going on, if you've been previously had trouble as far as hacking in your computer or your computer not running right and you're worried about it, yeah, it might be wise to check into it. But I can't speak specifically for LifeLock, but I would say that it's individual circumstances that really is the key. How are you as far as your risk tolerance? I think that's the way to put it.
Another thing, Bulldog, you have to understand, attorneys get paid by the word. So Alan is worth $28 million.
I know, and he did about $2 million right there
Joe,
in that little diaphragm.
and Bulldog, you're wrong. I'm worth $32 million, but my problem is it's all in Confederate money.
It's on the comeback. It's coming back.
Hey, Bulldog.
Yeah, well, you don't have any identity theft. You only deal in cash in your mattress. So
That's it. That helps.
I mean,
Hey,
there you go.
Wait a minute. Does he have a mattress?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
That's where people get the wrong impression of attorneys. When I started out in 1972, everyone in my law school class had a legal job if they wanted it within 6 months of graduation. Now, a lot of people who graduate law school don't even practice law.
Yeah. Hey, look at even the ones that do shouldn't be sometimes. But
Well, they're planning on being politicians.
there you go. Hey, Bulldog, everything else is normal?
Yeah, and next week will be the last time I'll call into this show.
Hey, listen, you can
until I get up to Palm Coast, because then we're moving.
Yeah, but
as long as
you can be.
Vicky gives me the go-ahead.
Yep. You can also.
You can always call in.
What day are you think you're supposed to move?
13, 14, 15
of June. Yeah. Okay, couple weeks. Hey, look, tomorrow's the 1st, so you got some time. All right, my man, tell Mary Beth we said hi, and we will talk to you. In fact, I'll be talking to her in a couple of days, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're still looking for something in the mail for that, too, right?
You got it. All right, Bulldog.
All right, thanks.
Talk to you.
Later on.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
340-1590, 340-1590.
Now, getting back to what you were saying, Victoria, about all the things that a realtor can bring to the deal, I had a realtor call me yesterday asking me about electrical panels, because there are some electrical panels that the insurance industry says, we're not going to insure that house with that panel in it. And she'd asked me about that particular panel in that house. And I said, yeah. I said, that was a good thing you brought to the attention, because that's probably going to have to be changed out. You need to bring
old fuse box ones.
You got to bring that to the table as a negotiating point, and it did help the buyer. So yeah, you bring all kinds of good pointers and advice to a purchase. So they do a great job.
Yeah. But it's not just so much that, and as Joe and I know, we just don't go in and say, oh, this is a bedroom.
Yeah.
We point out what people really pay extra for. That's a tray ceiling. They have an extra door in their garage. And all these things cost money when you go to build a home.
Of course.
You try to point out what values are, not so much what a bedroom looks like or what a kitchen looks like, because you can use that for whatever room you want it to.
We used to, when I used to teach this stuff, and the average realtor says, this is your kitchen.
Oh, God, Joe would go crazy.
I used to go spastic, and I said, oh, they've never seen a kitchen before, huh? So they didn't know what this is.
The one I like, though, is, the paint color is horrible. Well, you're going to paint anyway, aren't you?
No, I got an answer for that, Veronica.
That's the seller's color.
What's the answer?
Well, I got to say to you, if you like color, okay, you can take color off and change color. But if you're a person that only sees white or grays, they cannot remove a color. I am telling you right now, it's very, very difficult for people.
Well, the basic rule is this. If you do things in non-offensive colors.
But I'm not living with the other guy's paint, period.
But that's you.
But not everybody's like that.
There are people. The old rule is,
I want it clean.
Listen, you never fix the house up all the time you lived in it. Now fix it up so you can sell it.
That's true, Joe. Do you know how many people tell me the changes they're going to make in their home?
Yeah.
For 20 years, I'm going to clean my garage out.
Right,
and I do, but it keeps coming back. I have no clue if anybody can solve my problem, please call me.
The way you solve the problem is move. And then get ready to move and clean it up.
But I pretend. I do the pretend move.
Yeah.
Like,
the pretend
I gotta
move,
go. I'm leaving tomorrow. I
but
gotta pack.
Vic, when you
buy a storage unit like I did.
I tried that. I got rid of that too. That's too expensive.
You know what happens is, and then you just keep storing more stuff.
We need to build one.
The garage still gets full.
We'll build one together as a team.
Yeah.
And make our money that way. That'll be our retirement.
It's called Dan Has a Warehouse. He doesn't have a storage unit.
Well, if you haven't used it in 6 months, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Is that like a relationship?
I can't.
Well, hey, one of the perks of getting old. 340-1590. 340-1590. Anyway.
That's an open question.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what. Hey, so we understand the real estate. In fact, I was listening. They had a thing on CNBC this morning that nationwide, the biggest single problem that everybody is having with the real estate market is lack of inventory. Lack of inventory. There's not enough listings out there for people to make, to move more real estate. So they say the market is down a bit.
Does that mean low-cost housing or all housing?
They're saying all housing, but
it's different.
But
it's different. There's
market.
inventory. You come to me and say, Victoria, this is what I want.
Yeah.
So when Victoria looks, I've got it for you, but it's a different price range than you really want to spend.
That's exactly right.
And that's where the difference comes from.
Right.
They just pile everything into one bucket and tell you that's
listen,
what it is.
I want
$1
million house for $200,000.
And I
Don't
can
we
probably
all?
do that for
Don't
you.
we all?
Oh, I was in the Bahamas
what's
one
wrong?
time, and it said, I swear to you, it was like, it was on this little trailer, and it was this little teeny house, and it was so dilapidated. It was unbelievable. And it said, for sale by owner. And I thought I would absolutely die. I took a picture of it. I thought I would absolutely die.
Well, you love that.
It was the
Yeah,
land
there was
value.
this little
It was the
teeny-
land value.
Visbos.
You know what's coming up is the little houses. The kind that they can put on
the
trailers and
mini
travel
houses,
out, those
yeah.
little teeny
You-
ones.
and
They're like
I've not seen any of them.
250 square feet.
Yeah, out in California they make sense, but out here I don't see them.
They don't make sense anywhere.
It's code restricted almost everywhere you go. You have to read between the lines. They put those on their mom and dad's property.
Yeah.
You have to have a place to put them
like
because they're
living in a
code
kid's
restricted.
shed.
Well,
I have a
yes.
shed that about
But
that
it is a
size,
trailer.
yes.
You got a trailer home, right?
Yeah.
Hey, RV.
I have a motorhome. That's what I call a motorhome. It's an RV with wheels.
Yeah.
If I don't use them, I'll put plants around it soon.
349
No.
No.
340
There you go.
1590. Way to go! That was a test to see if you were paying attention.
We were paying attention.
Talking about that age thing.
Hey, listen, you're not.
You got to use that, mind you.
Yeah, boy.
No, it's just his mind. He
I'm
just
starting
said he's
to-
not
I'm start-
using
now
everything.
that I'm starting to hurt now that I think about it. 2 minutes. We just got
2
flipped.
minutes.
Hey, listen, we want to thank everybody for listening to us, and everything in the world looks to be going pretty good from an economic standpoint. Our boy that's leading the country right now, I think he's doing rope-a-dope with the Democrats, myself, just kind of playing the game with them, letting them hang themselves. But we'll see how that works out. If anybody needs to get information on rolling out of a 401k, out of a pension plan, into an individual retirement account, that's what I do. I'll be glad to talk and help and do whatever we can. And any other way we can help. We got a blessed group. We've been able to help a lot of people. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that we do for people that are not necessarily in our ballywick. But I think I was adding up the other day, Vic, that in our group, cumulatively, we got over 200 years of experience.
Oh, wow.
So there's a bunch.
You look great.
And and she, I like a woman that lies straight to my face. I'm so used to it. 340-1590, 340-1590. I got a 1. Does that mean 1 minute?
1 minute.
1 minute.
I got to be. It's supposed. What if when you go like that? With it bend it over? Is that a half a minute?
No, it's like this.
It's that.
seconds.
Oh, this. How much is
30 seconds.
That's 30. How much
It's
is
like
15?
a fee. I don't know.
She
I would
does.
just tell you got 15 seconds. Wrap up.
Alan, final words of wisdom.
Just thank you for allowing me to share with your wonderful team. It was great to have Victoria with us today, and Dan.
Yeah, there you go. And Dan.
Hey, I'm glad to be back.
Amen. I'll tell you. Vacations are magnificent, but sometimes you have to come home to relax.
I'm glad to be back home.
Because vacations can be hard work.
Yeah, it was cold.
Well, that Alaska. But hey, I envy you that trip. I may never take it, but because every time I think about going north, I think about the Bahamas.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm a tropical girl.
Give me water. June 17, Joe swimming across the ditch and hitting the Bahamas for 2 weeks.
That'll be fun.
Oh boy, I can't wait. I got Bahama
Say
fever.
goodbye.
Hey, until next week, everybody. Bulldog, thanks for listening.
Thanks, bye.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.